The new Joker movie is out, and oh god, people do not like this movie, and I can understand why. The pacing can feel slow, the movie can have some scenes that have no relevant impact, it can be boring. That is, if you want to buy into what everyone else is saying. I want to make my case for why this movie is actually a masterpiece of emotion and art. So let's get into this. Really quick, I want to say this is just my opinion, and if you have a different opinion, that is totally cool. Mwah. So if you haven't seen this movie, or the one that came out first, let's do a bit of a recap. In 2019, Todd Phillips directed Joker, which was a criminal success. It ranked 6th in the box office for that year, won multiple Academy Awards, and gave us an abundance of memes to pull from. The movie tells the story of Arthur Fleck, a mentally ill man who wants to be a comic, but sucks awfully at it. The movie is basically a collection of his fantasies and jokes while he learns that his mom actually abused him growing up. And throughout the movie, he kills 6 people, including his mom. Now, one of the things that this movie won an award for was Joaquin Phoenix's stellar performance, which is one of the honestly only similarities that this movie has with its sequel. Phoenix is back here on full display in this movie, and this time he's given even more material to work with. The way this man acts in this movie is absolutely unprecedented in my opinion. It's incredible just how much this man can do with his face and with his voice. The movie also stars Lady Gaga, which was honestly one of the main reasons I was excited to go see this movie. I don't know why. But that's also probably because that's about all I knew about this movie going into it. All I knew about this movie going into it was seeing the trailers that would show before other movies I'd go to see in the theaters, so I was completely blind. I saw this movie with my friend Tay, who by the way is the co-owner of my Discord server, so go join that. But let's just say we did not agree on this movie. You'll see my rating for this movie later on, but my friend whispered to me in the middle of the movie just about how bored he was, which honestly surprised me. Lady Gaga does a maybe surprisingly amazing job in this movie. I think Karsten Rundquist mentioned this in his video, but one of the best things about her performance is how she perfectly reads the tone of this all over the place movie. The tone in this movie is weird. I would argue it's consistent, or at least has a consistent thread, but that thread is very fleeting and obscure, at least if you were to try to describe it or act in it. So the way that Lady Gaga acts as Harley, fitting perfectly into this tone and mood that Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix have created, is beautiful. Her character, honestly, is a very riveting piece of what makes this movie so engaging for me. I really love how they didn't just copy directly the comic version of the character. They took it and did something completely different with it, just like they did with Joker in the first movie. Spoilers from here on out, by the way. So we meet Harley Quinn as a fellow inmate of Arkham alongside the Joker. Harley Quinn is introduced by full-on fucking lying to Arthur/Joker. She tells him that she burned her own house down because her mom was being a bitch or whatever, and that she grew up in the same neighborhood as Joker and that her dad is dead. But we come to learn that she's just trolling him because actually her dad is a doctor. She lives in like uptown Gotham. She's rich and she checked herself into Arkham apparently just to meet Arthur, but we can never really tell for sure, I guess, since she lies so much. Anyways, and then we end the movie with, and major spoiler warning again, Arthur publicly saying that the Joker isn't real and that it's just the man, Arthur Fleck, and that the Joker persona is gone and dead. And so after this, Harley Quinn just fucking gets up and dips and then tells Arthur later on that the man that she was in love with is gone and dead. And then she just abandons him. I don't know why more people aren't talking about how amazing this story arc is. Harley was only interested in Arthur because she wanted to be a part of something. She wanted to be important. She was extremely selfish and fake. Her fantasy life mirrors Arthur's so perfectly because simultaneously we see Arthur being treated in the same way he treats others, and we see him realizing what these fantasies look like from the outside and how painful and stupid they can be when you're not in the middle of them anymore. And we see that Harley is, in her own way, her own fantasy in Arthur's life. He thought he was in love, he thought he was happy for once, and it got taken away so quickly. This introduces such a new concept of how fantasies affect Arthur. Up until now all his fantasies, he goes out and takes action. He takes his fantasies from life. But this time, someone took his fantasy away from him and he's left alone, facing the consequences of his actions. The fairy tale is over and it's as if he finally realizes this, at least on some level. Now again, when I went to go see this movie, all I knew about it was the trailers. And I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention or something, but I had absolutely no idea that it was a musical. And let's just say I was very, very pleasantly surprised. This is where a lot of my personal bias comes into my review, so I'll try to speed through this. I am an absolute sucker for musicals, especially when they're done in this way. The musical numbers here reflect so much more than just plot or surface level emotion like in other musicals like La La Land. Not to diss La La Land, I think that movie is incredible, but Joker does something else that works better for that movie. The musical numbers are an exact reflection of Arthur's mental state at any moment. They're basically dreams or fantasies that just take the form of musical numbers. And they take this form because Arthur himself wants to be a performer. This is how he sees himself. This is his ideal version of himself. We're seeing exactly what he wants to be, and if the musical numbers sometimes are drawn out or too often, that's because Arthur's mind is also too drawn out and his fantasies are too often. I believe that the monotony and the droning tranciness of these scenes add so much to the vibe of this movie, the aesthetic. This movie puts you in the mind state of Arthur, and it does this through playing with your perception of reality in this way. And this is where I have to bring up Darren Aronofsky. Requiem for a Dream is one of the most perfect movies ever made. For the uninitiated, it's a movie about a guy and his mom, best friend, and girlfriend as they all suffer from drug addiction and watch as their lives are taken from them by the addiction. Basically, a requiem means it was, especially in the Roman Catholic Church, a mass for the repose of the souls of the dead. So the movie is called A Requiem for a Dream, as all the characters have dreams and aspirations, and the movie is made to be a requiem, or basically a funeral, for all of those dreams. Now, this movie uses dream sequences perfectly to execute this theme, and I believe the new Joker movie took inspiration from Requiem for a Dream and ran with it, very similarly to how the original Joker took inspiration from Taxi Driver and King of Comedy and ran with that. So yeah, this idea and this concept isn't the most original, but who cares? It's done well here in my opinion. Requiem for a Dream uses these sequences of fantasy to show a character's, specifically the mother's, descent into madness. They showcase reality being quite literally taken and stolen from her. She sees herself as she wants to see herself, the ideal version of herself, very similarly to how Joker sees himself. In Requiem for a Dream's case, the mother sees a prettied up, skinnier version of herself on TV, doing all the things that she dreams of doing. Joker sees himself in the same way, makeup upped and performing to a crowd that is roaring for him, that loves him. And more than the really good filmmaking and emotional storytelling that these scenes do, me personally, I just fucking love them. They're just sick and creepy, and the songs are all amazing. I love the jazz, and yeah, they're all just awesome, but that's just personal taste. I mean, watch this shit. Tell me this isn't awesome. Alright, that's about all I have to say about this movie. In my opinion, 10 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Have a great night. Love you guys. Mwah.